Today we are continuing our series of drafting from each spot in fantasy football. Today we're doing the 101 in a 12-team format. So the last video was 10-team, this is now 12-team, and the goal is to post 2 videos a day, one for the 10-team and one for the 12-team. Obviously, I'll do it if it is possible. Sometimes it's going to be hard to record them consistently, but I will try my best to get these out as the draft is getting closer and closer. I'm super excited. I hope you guys are excited as well. We are using fantasypros.com. The ADP here, I think, is a lot more accurate when it comes to drafting teams. It's going to be much more relevant in your draft than Sleeper and ESPN. I've drafted teams on Sleeper. I've drafted them on ESPN, and in my opinion, I think that the mock drafts that you do on there are not accurate and representative of what actually will be happening. You will have players that fall, the bot's going to take players that don't make sense. So this website is the most accurate when it comes to ADP, where players are going to be going. And it makes it a bit more challenging to draft good teams because, again, when you're doing mock drafts on the other websites, you build a super stacked team. When you go into a real draft, it's not like that. So with that being the case, we're going to be drafting from the 101 here. I'm going to go through, talk about what options you have, who you should be drafting, who you should be targeting, and things like that. So hope you guys enjoy this video. Let's get into it. So starting at the 101, this website obviously is going to recommend Jamar Chase and Puka Nacua because this is for full PPR. I play full PPR formats, one quarterback, no super flex, no tight end premium, just the most kind of standard, you can say, format for fantasy, but I also think it is the most common. So that is what I make my videos about, is full PPR. We're not going to be choosing between Jamar Chase and Puka Nacua, even though they are super intriguing options. I think that the two best players are Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs. And between the two of them, I prefer Bijan. Ultimately, it doesn't matter which one you choose. Both of them are really good options. Both are going to be super productive, high floor, high ceiling, and things like that. But Bijan is my 101, and I choose him. But again, if you like Jahmyr Gibbs, you can definitely take him. Looking at the board and who comes off, nothing too kind of out of the ordinary. I think everything here is pretty accurate to what I typically see in best ball and other real drafts that I have done. Amon-Ra might have went a bit lower than expected, but Amon-Ra is a really good player, so it's nothing too crazy. And everything else, I mean, looks pretty similar to what you would expect. Now looking at who we will be taking, and I've done a couple mock drafts from this spot, and I think the most effective thing you can do here is to take 2 wide receivers. I have tried reaching for a running back in this spot, and I think that the team that you build in terms of wide receiver isn't the best, and I think there's a running back that you can get much later that is going to be worth waiting for. So we're going to go through and we're going to take George Pickens and we're going to take Nico Collins for both of our wide receivers. George Pickens, wide receiver 1 on the Cowboys. He's splitting the field with CeeDee Lamb. I know a lot of people really like CeeDee Lamb. George Pickens is the truth. I think George Pickens is a really good player. I think that him and CeeDee Lamb are going to be splitting the field a lot more than people want to admit, and it's going to be a lot closer than people actually think. So taking George Pickens at the 212, I think, is really solid. I think he's going to be really good this season, easily averaging 15 points per game with a super high ceiling as well. Nico Collins, he also is around that 15 to 16 points per game range. He's a wide receiver 1 in Houston. A lot more questions there, but I think that him being a true alpha wide receiver on his team just gives him that kind of upside that you want on a team. He has a nice ceiling. He has a nice floor as well. A bit of injury concern, but I think nothing to worry about going into this year. So I think starting off with those 2 as our wide receiver 1 and 2, you're going to be super happy with that. So now at the 412, looking through at who is available. Again, there's a ton of wide receivers here, and we definitely will be taking one of them, but the player that I want to take here is going to be DeAndre Swift. I think DeAndre Swift is one of the last running backs in this tier where they're still going to be viable and playable, especially for a running back too. So DeAndre Swift is going to be, I think, a consistent running back. I'm not worried about Kyle Monangai and his production. I think DeAndre Swift is a true running back 1 there. He's going to be getting majority of the touches, majority of the goal line touches as well, and he will be super productive. So having him as my running back 2 with 2 elite wide receiver 1s and Bijan is something I really like. I think this is a really good start here and something you definitely won't be opposed to. And then the player we're going to take here is going to be Jalen Waddle. I think Jalen Waddle is going to have a really good season on the Broncos. He's going to be super productive. He's the wide receiver 1 there. I'm not too worried about Courtland Sutton. The only thing I would be maybe concerned about is Bo Nix himself in general, his health and stuff like that. But if Bo Nix is healthy, if everything's good, Jalen Waddle should have a really good season. Having him as our 3rd wide receiver it's mucho bueno. It's something that I think you would really like and really be confident in having him on your team. So looking through at who has come off the board, and we see a bunch of tight ends coming off the board in the 6th round. A really big run of them, actually. We have Harold Fannin, Kyle Pitts, Laporta, Tucker Kraft. Pretty interesting to see them coming off the board this early. Colson Loveland does go much later than he usually does. He goes in the 3rd. But we're not looking at tight end right now. We're looking at tight ends later. We're still filling out our skill positions. We're still looking at wide receivers and running backs and looking at who is available. A running back that I really like is actually going to be Jadarian Price. I think he is worth taking a shot on. Gets picked with his 32nd pick in the draft. They really needed a running back, and that's why they drafted him. I think that Zach Charbonnet is probably going to miss the beginning of the season. Not as much as you would think, but he's definitely going to miss, and I think Jadarian Price is going to be the starter there. I think he'll get a majority of the snaps. He's super talented. I think he has that upside that is worth taking a shot on. Jaylen Warren has the receiving upside, but Rico Dotto is there now. RJ Harvey I don't really like. Tony Pollard isn't good, so just taking that upside shot on him. And now looking through, and if you want, I'm not opposed for you taking a quarterback like Justin Herbert or Caleb Williams. I think both of them are going to be really good this year, really solid, and definitely worth taking a shot on. But I think we can get another quarterback a little bit later. I still want to fill out our wide receiver room. And looking through at who is available, nobody that really catches my eye apart from Brian Thomas Jr. I think Brian Thomas Jr. is going to have a bounce back year this year. In all honesty, last year was a bit of an interesting year. He was dealing with injuries, mental issues as well with the passing of his friend, and I think that really affected his play. But this year, he looks healthy. We watched some training camp videos. He looks good to go. In all honesty, I think he's going to be really solid. I really like him, and I think he's going to be a great player to take on the team. Looking at the team so far, he's on our bench. We're not taking a big shot here. He's going to be our bench player anyway. And if he excels and goes back to producing 15, 16 points per game, it's a win. So 7th pick for Brian Thomas Jr. I think isn't too crazy. With his potential, I think that it is worth taking that shot there. Now looking through at who is available, we will be taking Brock Purdy here as our quarterback, as the quarterbacks are slowly coming off, and Brock Purdy is one of the last quarterbacks that I really like, and him in the 8th round I think is a super fair price for what he's going to produce and how he's going to play. He has the rushing upside, throwing ability. Everything is good with Brock Purdy. I really like him. He's an all-around really solid quarterback, and one of the last ones that I really like that is available. Now looking through, we could take a shot at another wide receiver, or we can go and try to take a tight end. And the tight end that I'm going to try to draft is going to be Travis Kelce. I know Travis Kelce is super old. I know that a lot of people aren't the biggest fan of Kelce and stuff like that, but he is productive. He's easily around that 10-point floor. He's really the only other option for the receiving game there apart from Rashee Rice, and getting him in the 9th round, even though he is old, I think is really good. Around the players that he goes, these are all really just high upside shots compared to a proven veteran. So I really like Travis Kelce in the 9th round as our tight end. If you want to take a George Kittle here in the 10th round as kind of like a backup, I think you can. I don't think it's the craziest thing to do that. I personally wouldn't do it. Or Dalton Kincaid if you're worried about Kelce. But Kelce's going to play. He's going to get the ball a ton. He's going to be productive. He's a really good tight end. Looking through, I'm actually going to take Deebo Samuel here at the 10th pick. Last video, we took him in the 14th round. That was for the 10-team format. Since then, his ADP has been rising a little bit, as well as this is 12 teams, so obviously there's going to be more depth in terms of who you're choosing. But Deebo Samuel, wide receiver 2 on the 49ers. Ricky Pearsall goes down with an injury. Mike Evans also kind of deals with injuries. Mike Evans goes, looking through here, in the 5th round, and he does suffer injuries quite a bit as of recent. So Deebo Samuel himself deals a bit with injuries, but he is productive. This is a team that he's played on literally 2 years ago. He left to Washington for like a year, came back. I think he's going to be pretty productive. I think he's a really good take in the 10th round. Again, another upside shot. Looking at our team, these are all upside shots, really high upside shot players that have really good potential. We're really set on our starters here. So we're really just drafting players with that potential to explode and do well, potentially pair them up and trade them for a bigger piece and things like that. So Deebo Samuel in the 10th round I think is really good. This might not be a bad spot to go for a defense, but unfortunately the defense that I think that we wanted is off the board. Texans, Denver Broncos, Rams, and Seahawks are all gone. Looking at the defenses that are available, again, we have the Eagles, who definitely are a pretty good option, but I don't think it's worth taking them at this point. They're not too different from the other defenses that are here, like the Jaguars and the Vikings and the Patriots. They're going to be pretty similar in terms of production. These four right here really set themselves apart in terms of production, and I think are going to be really solid, but obviously they're off the board. So looking through at who is here, I think we're going to go through and we're going to take Woody Marks here with our 11th pick. Woody Marks, he has the receiving upside. Again, last year wasn't super productive for him on the Texans, and now David Montgomery is there. I spoke about David Montgomery in my last video, and I stated that the Texans don't really produce a super elite running back, and I still believe that. But in terms of who else is going around here, there's not a ton of crazy upside shots in terms of production for fantasy. If Montgomery gets injured, Woody Marks can be a decent backup. Maybe there'll be more split and Woody Marks will get a big receiving role. So I think he's better than a player like Tyrone Tracy and Alvin Kamara. Tyler Algier is definitely not a bad option as well if you would like. And Chris Rodriguez I like also. But again, these are more of just kind of high-end handicaps. And I like Woody Marks. I like the receiving upside that he offers. Now, this is the point in the draft where we're going to be taking our kicker. We're taking Brandon Aubrey here at the 12th. Again, if you're drafting and you have 15 rounds, maybe you'll have 16 or 17. Brandon Aubrey in the 12th round isn't that crazy. Brandon Aubrey by himself can win you a week. He can drop like 30 points. He has easily the best foot in the game. And for the kicking position, he's going to be really good. Now looking through at who is available for defense, we're going to go through and take the Patriots. One of my other defenses that I really like is the Patriots, who we're going to be taking the 13th pick. Again, everybody else that's available here is really just all upside shots. Not a ton of really crazy options, players that could be on the waiver wire at some point and things like that. So taking the best kicker in the league and one of the better defenses early on isn't that crazy. But looking through at who is available, I'm going to go through and I'm actually going to take Chig for Washington, the tight end, recently signed. I think Chig could be a super sneaky tight end that goes super late and he'd be super productive. I mean, just in case Travis Kelce does get injured, he definitely is somebody we can play, but also kind of using him as a trading piece later on to maybe get a better flex spot or something like that. Or you can play him in the flex. I mean, if he becomes super productive, I think he can be a flex option for sure. But he definitely is one of those kind of hold on to and try to sell possibly later. So with the 15th pick, kind of looking at who is available, we took ourselves a second tight end. Running back wise, the only running back that I think is a bit intriguing is if we scroll all the way down here, and he's pretty far down, it is going to be Emmett Johnson. If you think that Kenneth Walker could get injured and stuff like that, Emmett Johnson's going to be his backup. He's going to be a really interesting option, in all honesty, kind of a handicap. So if you take K9, maybe take Emmett just in case. He won't be bad. I'm not going to take him. I don't really think that we need him. But I will want to take another wide receiver, and looking at who is available, again, not a ton of intriguing options here, but there is one that I really like. Originally, it was Antonio Williams, but after Stephon Diggs was signed, Antonio Williams isn't really that interesting anymore for redraft. In Dynasty, it's different, but the player that I do like is Zachariah Branch here. Drafted to Atlanta. He is going to be the wide receiver 2 there, and Drake London as well deals with injuries. Drake London misses essentially almost every year, like 2 or 3 games, and typically it was Darnell Mooney who was in charge there that would take over as the wide receiver 2, but now we have Branch, however you pronounce it. But Zachariah, I think, could be a really good option kind of as a backup that could be pretty productive. Even as Drake London is playing, he's still going to be pretty productive. He's super deep in drafts, so not a lot of people are really looking at him, but I think he can be really solid. Looking at the team overall that we have built, we have Brock Purdy as our quarterback. Again, rushing upside, the ability to throw the ball. Bijan, best running back in the league. DeAndre Swift, a solid running back 2 behind him. George Pickens and Nico Collins, 2 super elite wide receiver 1s. Travis Kelce, old but gold, really good tight end who is going to produce. Jalen Waddle in our flex. Patriots, one of the top 5 defenses in the league. Brandon Aubrey, the GOAT when it comes to kicking, the best kicker in the league. Jadarian Price, Brian Thomas, Deebo Samuel, Woody Marks, all upside shots, but that is what your bench is made for. Chig as well as another upside shot, also kind of a handicap to Travis Kelce, potentially a trade piece later on. And Zachariah Branch, potentially a good handicap and could be super productive. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you got an idea of how the 101 is going to be going, who you should be targeting, how you should be approaching it. If you guys enjoyed the video, leave a like, leave a comment, and I will see you guys in the next one when we are going to be drafting from the 102.